The agriculture value system, because many a time we have not been able to generate profit for the farmers only because we have not practiced agriculture as an integrated, organically linked agriculture value system. An agriculture value system, in simple language, is connecting the farm gates to the consumption center. The farm gates, as you know, are decentralized and spread across the geography of the country. And the consumption centers are also equally distributed because they could be home consumers, they could be processors, they could be exporters, bulk purchasers, they could be within the country and outside the country because we would like to expand our market and see that farmers are able to find markets for their agriculture produce. So, how do we effectively connect the farm gate to the consumption center? But at tier two, as we analyze, we find that the agriculture segment can be broadly divided into three categories: the pre production segment, the production segment, and the post production segment. And there is a link among all these three. I told you that agriculture, like any other domain of economy, suffers from risks and uncertainties. And agriculture, being a biological system, suffers from greater degree of vulnerability compared to manufacturing and service sectors. With agriculture, which is biologically and monsoon-wise determined, nature-wise determined, is always a Hobson's choice. So, how do we bring in systems of control and see that the production system or the supply is in tune with the demand? That means what the consumer wants, the kind of commodity, the quality of commodity, the quantum of commodity. Are our farmers able to produce that accordingly? So, how do we have a market to farm gate approach rather than a farm gate to market approach? It is not a supply push, but a demand pull approach to agriculture. If we want to do this thing and then negotiate the risks that come at every single stage, pre production stage, and the post production stage, we need digital technology. So, India has committed itself to practicing digital technology, not just in agriculture, but for the nation's social and economic segments. India, for the last 15 years, has adopted what is called a digital technology or electronic kranti in our language. And there are 9 pillars in the digital technology. Of these 9 pillars, pillar number 5 relates to agriculture. It is called NGPA, that is bringing electronic or digital systems into the national agriculture systems, ENGPA. And we have made fairly good progress under the NEGPA. And what NEGPA is trying to do is to address the risks and uncertainties that exist at these three segments. Second, to provide real-time information in an understandable manner to every farmer. Third, to build a decision support system at national, state, and at the district levels, based once again on the dashboard system, so that there is uniformity in monitoring and simultaneously responding to the challenges that come across. By now, under any GPA, more than 70 different kinds of services have been developed based on different applications. And then now the focus is how do we start deploying more robustly the remote sensing technologies, emerging technologies based on centralized database system. Now, under the different services that have been developed, two important ones, of course, are very simple and straightforward what the farmers require. What is called the Kisan Suvidha portal, which caters to 5 critical information systems that is relating to soils, relating to the pest management, relating to the market price system, relating to the water, and other kinds of inputs, for example, the pesticide dealers. So the critical inputs that the basic agriculture production system requires, that information which is continuously upgraded is available on the Krishi Suvidha portal. And in order to ensure that the farmers have an access to the changing technology generated by our National Agriculture Research System, consisting of the Indian Council of Agriculture and 77 number of state agricultural universities, there is also a portal which is dedicated to this, and it continuously upgrades so that the technology is accessible by the farmers and other kinds of stakeholders. So these are very simple services, but there are many number of portals which have been developed, and these portals generate a humongous quantum of data. The time is short, but you have given me many issues to talk about. I have now given examples of how what happens at the production system and the pre-production system. Of course, how does pest gets endemic, or how does a locust gets endemic? All those things using ESAP applications, they're all being done just as you may also be doing. Let's talk more about the post-production now, because that's what you are interested in. And as people committed to farmers, all of us must be more interested today in the post-harvest. Because when we produced earlier, it was mostly for food security. But improving science and technology is helping farmers to gain higher productivity. With higher productivity, we'll have surplus. When surplus is there, supply is more than the demand, the prices fall in the market. And that is a disincentive to the farmers. Hence, we must be focused on continuously creating new markets. And how do we manage supply and demand such that the farmers are able to fetch good prices on their produce? How do we develop systems based on digital technology to help farmers to gain access to markets? And how do they benefit from good prices? So in that particular domain, we have tried a large number of things and we're continuing to do it. That begins with what is called a price and demand forecasting. If we want the farmers to decide their production, the nature of crops, the kind of crops they want to grow based on the expected demand and price, then we should have very robust system of price and demand forecasting, just as USDA has been doing for donkey's years now. So this digital technology, it helps us, for example, to collect and collate the data distributed everywhere across the country and subject it through a statistical model using machine learning and artificial intelligence to do a data analytics and find what are the trends in the pricing model or the rival model, and then say that this could be the price for different crops. So price and demand forecasting is very important for supply chain management. And second, it is very important to directly deploy it in marketing. So now what India has done is that first is that India was a regulated market for long many decades. When it was regulated, it means the farmers did not have the freedom to sell their crops wherever they wanted to. Largely, it was controlled by what is called a regulated system, regulated market, which is called as APMCs, Agriculture Produce Market Committees, APMCs. And market being a state subject, not a national subject, every state had a Market Regulation Act and set up what are called APMCs, and the farmers expected to bring their agriculture produce to these APMCs, and at the APMCs where transaction happened, it happened in a regulated manner to the interest of the farmers, which meant that the agriculture produce that was brought by the farmer was subjected to an auction system. The traders who are interested in purchasing were supposed to quote their prices, and the highest bidder would get that agriculture produce. Unfortunately, two problems cropped up. One, that once the farmer took his produce to the APMC, if he did not get a good price, it was not possible for him to bring back the produce to his farm. Second, since he went to a particular APMC, the number of traders at that APMC were limited, so the number of quotes were limited. And as you know, if there are a lesser number of quotes in auction, then the price cannot be discovered efficiently. So the farmer was not able to get good price. Third, if he was to go to one particular APMC, he was not able to take advantage of the demand that may have been lying elsewhere. We therefore thought of connecting these physically distributed markets onto a virtual platform. When we now connect physically distributed markets on one virtual platform to an online trade platform, the advantage is that the farmer today, if he takes his produce to one particular APMC, the trader in another market also can quote on the same produce at one particular market. So this is the big advantage, because if there are 10 traders in market A and there are 10 traders in market B, if 20 traders are now quoting on the produce of the farmer at one market, he is likely to get a better price when compared to a situation where only 10 traders quoted. So in short, this is a virtual trade platform, what we call as ENAM, Electronic National Agriculture Market. The purpose was to create one nation, one market. If production is decentralized, marketing need not be decentralized. It can be pan India, pan Sri Lanka, like European Union. They have got one single market, or under the WTO, we have got one global market. If there can be one global market under the WTO or under the European Union, European market, why not in respective countries? The entire country becomes one market. Unfortunately, India was having fragmented markets, that means state-wise markets or APMC-wise markets. So when we now built that ENAM and launched it in April 2016, we have been able to see that farmers have begun to get better prices. Of course, we still have a long way to go. We have 2,700 APMCs in the country, of which now 1,200 markets have been brought on board of this platform, and there are many more markets to be brought. Over the last 4 years, we have been improving the application. And what was earlier not available on the mobile is now available on the mobile. So farmer can sit at his farm gate and start transacting on the mobile application. And this mobile, it now enables him a few things. First, that he can, when the agriculture commodity is taken to a particular market, he can see it on his app, have a 360-degree view of the commodity lot there. So that the trader also who is purchasing, he also is able to have a 360-degree view of the agriculture commodity and assess what the quality is or the state is. Second, he can, not before he goes to the market, he can now generate an advance entry gate ticket. And then simultaneously, the same commodity can be traded in different markets, not just one market. And then the agriculture commodity can be assayed, that means at a quality lab, and the parameters of the assaying, they're all now visible on the application, so that the traders are able to quote their prices based on the parameter. They don't have to physically inspect all the time. So we have been continuously making improvement. And the latest improvement that came thanks to Corona was, because as you know, there was transport breakdown and many problems, logistics problem came up. The farmer who wanted to take his commodity from a village to a market, or a trader who wanted to take his bought commodity from one market to another place, it was very difficult for him to connect with the logistics provider. So just like the call service for the transportation, we have now a call service for the logistics. So our ENAM platform today is connected to the Truckers Association platform. So more than 2.5 lakh transporters of the country today are connected like Ola system to the ENAM. And all the transport systems, different transport systems today are all connected to this. So now it becomes very efficient. That means you can call for a truck which is nearest at the nearest place to transport your commodity. So this simple example shows that one platform can start hosting several other services. It did not host only one service. It can host transport service, it can host processing service, it can host transaction service. So different kinds of services can be added to the technology. So this necessitates that when we develop a platform, we make it so robust, so strong that it is able to take on different kinds of add-ons. So that is very important. A question that was asked and that is also raised, escalated here is about REMS. ENAM is popular, but there's one more platform called REMS. Now, REMS is actually a predecessor of ENAM. REMS is a online trade platform that was developed by Karnataka state, South Indian state, in association with a corporate sector. And so it is a private public partnership mode. Karnataka was the first state to roll out online trade platform. So today around 200 of their markets are on the trade platform. So when we started ENAM subsequently, the two were not talking to one another. Now, under our Act, APMC Act, what we have said is we need to break monopolies, which means that if we have only one trade platform, there can be a monopoly. We have said any number of trade platforms can come up within the government sector and private sector. So government itself can have more than one platform. Large number of private players can come and develop their platforms. When we have larger number of platforms, but we want it to be one single market, it is obvious that these different trade platforms must get integrated. Hence, when we developed a ENAM platform at the national level, we adopted what is called an open source, open architecture, so that it is able to interoperate with any number of platforms. So today, in the last 1 year, ENAM and REMS are integrated and interoperable. That means a farmer in Karnataka who is trading on REMS platform can also get integrated onto the ENAM platform and therefore be transacting with a trader in Uttar Pradesh or Punjab or Maharashtra. So a technology platform, its design, its architecture are extremely important, and that has to be kept in mind by the developers. So REM stays, ENAM stays. Yeah, it's a very valid question, and one of the prerequisite to any kind of online trade is to adhere to the agreement. What I sell and what you buy, there must be integrity. So we in agriculture, which is very complex, we are promoting assaying labs across the country. Once again, these assaying labs, different models are there. Either the private entrepreneurs are allowed to set up, government can set up, the markets themselves can set up, and also is Karnataka, for example, has entered into an agreement with the Collateral Management Agency. No? The Collateral Management Authority, which is a private agency, they have taken the responsibility of setting up assaying labs and they generate revenue on that, and that is their business model. Okay, so we can have different business models. So it is necessary that we set up assaying labs. When the farmer wants to trade online, he has to say that this is my quality, and that quality as defined by the parameters. So when we launched ENAM, our ministry developed what are called tradable parameters. We have got different standard agencies. We've got something called Bureau of Indian Standard, BIS. We've got FSSAI. Okay, that is for is a food standards for safety of agriculture of the commodities. But it deals with packaged commodities. Now we are dealing with unpackaged commodities, different agriculture crops, including fruits and vegetables. So we develop very simple tradable parameters. Let us say, for example, rice. What is its color? What is the moisture percentage? What is the percentage of foreign material? What is the percentage of broken material? So likewise, different parameters for the different commodities were defined, adopted, and the assaying lab tests the farmer's lot for those commodities, and those parameters qualities are hosted on the website for the transaction, so that the trader knows this is what I am buying. and the seller know this is what I'm selling, and therefore the price given to me can vary. And there's somebody, a forward agency or a commission agent, who takes responsibility of storing that commodity and transporting it to the buyer. So now that is a big challenge, let me tell you. So now logistics, that means transportation, warehouses, storage godowns, cold stores, and somebody actually taking the responsibility of transporting the commodity and delivering at the place where the purchaser wants it to be delivered. These are some of the big challenges in an online trade. But these are not something not unsurmountable. As you know now already, now we have got all these different agencies like Amazon is there, or Big Basket is there, or so many kinds of online trade platforms already there, and these things are happening. Of course, they deal more with standardized commodities, unlike in agriculture, which are extremely voluminous and they can vary from one lot to another. But we need to develop these parameters, assaying labs, and then maybe over a period of time we need to have a risk cover also for those things, so that the purchaser also is sure that he's getting the right commodity. So these are the challenges, but we will have to take them forward.